नमस्ते सबैजनालाई मेरो नाम शारदा हो।
मेरा नाम से सुस्मिता।
मेरो नाम मन्जु।
मेरो नाम सबिन।
मेरा नाम नितिशा।
मेरो नाम सिर्जना।
मेरो नाम नवाल हो।
And we are
हाम्रो
Hamrakatha when the lotus blooms.
So, like growing up, I heard the word assimilate a lot, like even through elementary, right? So, like you know how immigrants they come to America and they try to assimilate. I thought that was the only word possible. I didn't know acculturation. I only learned about that when I was doing research on like how immigrants acculturate. Anyways, it was like an essay on that. And I was like, oh, you know what? This makes sense because this is basically what I have been trying to do with my journey. That's when I realized the difference. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to तिमीहरू argue गर्न खोजेको होइन okay तर मेरो
I
understanding
know. Yeah.
let me like मेरो understanding अलिकति या किनकि म अलिकति confused no they are two different things होइन but I feel like they're interconnected होइन interconnected because मैले हेर्दाखेरि like assimilation or what is assimilation like it is like a process भनौँ न like it's to assimilate yourself trying to start के भन्न आफ्नो कल्चरदेखि अलिकति टाढा हुनु खोज्नु right and like kind of त्यो गर्न हो नि त होइन and then trying to
I think it's
yeah.
sorry, yeah, I think it's usually because of the pressures of the new culture though. Because yeah, you want to try to fit in the best way you can so that your life can be easier, or maybe not just your life, your family as well. That's why they try to go ahead with that. But they are similar in terms of both are ways to integrate into the new culture.
नेपालीमा भन्नुपर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यही हो बेसिकली आई थिङ्क असिमुलेसन लाइक तिमीहरूले इक्जाम्पल्स दियौ नि लाइक नेपाली कल्चर ल्याङ्ग्वेज हाम्रो भाषाहरू भयो नि त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति स्लोली अर्कोले चाहिँ अब हामी अमेरिकामा छौँ नि त सो हामी के बोल्छौँ यहाँ भन्दाखेरि अङ्ग्रेजी राइट इङ्ग्लिस बढी बोलिरहेको हुन्छौँ नि त स्कुलमा भयो काममा भयो किनकि प्रायः जस्तो मेन्डेटरी हुन्छ लाइक अब बोल्नै पर्ने हुन्छ अनलेस हामीले अब लाइक नेपाली सेटिङ्समै काम गरिरहेको छौँ भने चाहिँ अलिकति नेपाली नै बोलिरहेको हुन्छौँ तर प्रायः चाहिँ जम्मै काममा चाहिँ लाइक इङ्ग्लिसै बोल्नुपर्ने हुन्छ नि त अरूहरूसँग सो त्यो हुँदाखेरि पनि आई थिङ्क सिन्स देयर इज द्याट एक्सपेक्टेसन्स अलरेडी युआर स्लोली क्या हो लाइक त्यो त्यो के अरे अब चाहिँ अमेरिकाकै कल्चर अमेरिकाकै भाषामा अलिकति डुबिन्छौँ नि त अनि या त्यही हो असिमुलेसन भनेको चाहिँ नेपाली अलिकति डेफिनेसनमा अनि अकल्चरेसन भनेको चाहिँ ओके घरमा लाइक युआर स्टिल लाइक नेपाली बोलिरहेको छ मम्मी बाबाहरूसँग बट युआर अल्सो लाइक अब बाहिर हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ साथीहरूसँग भयो अरू काममा इङ्ग्लिस बोल्ने ठाउँ हुँदै लाइक इङ्ग्लिस बोलिरहेको हुन्छौँ नि त सो स्टिल लाइक युआर प्र्याक्टिसिङ दुइटै उयोहरू कल्चर्सहरू अरू भाषाहरू
Yeah, like Manjali talked about, it's an experience that many people go through, especially for us being refugees and immigrants. I feel like this was such an important part of our journey transitioning from Nepal to America. For me personally, since I didn't know what acculturation was, I always assumed that I had assimilated more than acculturated. But then after thinking about it for a little while, I realized I did indeed acculturate rather than assimilate, which was like a very big, like, wow. I personally never disregarded my own culture. I still was a part of it and I fully embraced being a Buddhist Nepali refugee, while also taking part in like American cultures and trying to assimilate there.
So for me, I feel like I was more toward acculturation than assimilation because I was having hard time to fit in within simulation type of that process like those people who usually adapt in America in simulation way ma adapt गर्छ नि but I was having hard time to do that because I guess I was attached to my homeland more and my house was built with Nepali parents so
Growing up, a lot of the American social workers are हुन्छ नि उनीहरूले चाहिँ हामीलाई पहिल्यैदेखि so when I was like in elementary they used to come in our neighborhoods and those who helped us were like hey try speaking more in English घरमै पनि and with your parents so that they can learn the language along with you. So that kind of early on set our minds to, oh, always English because we want to get good at that and we want to succeed in it. So no Nepali. So they already set us in that zone. So growing up in that, I guess, environment, I honestly didn't think much of our culture because as I slowly started integrating into the American culture I put behind my Nepali roots. And also, not just as an immigrant, but we're also a refugee, right? And a lot of the times to say, oh, I'm a refugee, it almost felt embarrassing because when everyone else is, you can clearly see that they're more privileged. Without the status of being a refugee, it makes you want to compare and kind of hide your identity. And yeah, that's, I think, some of the factors of why I assimilated more.
I feel like I can relate on some levels too, because maybe because we came to America at such a young age that for us it was easier to assimilate. Because it's like, okay, well, I came to America when I was 7, and it's like I started second grade ma, and all the people around me were just American people who spoke English, and the only Nepali person I had in my class was Sarda. But yeah, I think it was really hard not to assimilate because obviously you don't want people to make fun of your accent or like the way you talk, and you don't want them to judge the way you look and stuff. And I felt like it was a lot pressuring because we started off so young. It was like I had to fit in with these people. I had to look like them in some sense for to get them to like me.
I still have like pretty thick or like Nepali, no, not Nepali. I think my English bolदाखेरि like you can tell I wasn't really grew up यहाँनिर भनेर because the accent that I carry नि त my English bolदाखेरि. So like literally I get so nervous every time I'm speaking with like native speak like English speakers. I don't know, for some reason I just like I just feel nervous, and I'm like, okay, I need to make sure. Okay, exactly. American way may no pronounce no gare pani. Like I need to, like speak clear enough so they can understand and they don't ask me like what, like what did you say, Wandra? I don't know. And I think whenever there is an incident about like, people getting bullied about like, oh, you have an accent, यताउता भनेर कसले fun बनाएछ भने चाहिँ नि. And this is something I recently like मैले के अरे Insta with your like Mimudi देखेको. Well, at least, like I speak 2 languages, like do you speak 2 languages? Wonder like that's something you could like kind of, backfire at them. And I think that kind of I guess healed some of those still traumas regarding like okay बा मेरो एक्सेन्टले गर्दा उनीहरूले नबुझ्ने हो कि they're making fun of me भन्ने उयसमा चाहिँ, because it is something you should be proud of नि त, you have this like blended accent नि त, so that's why like because again for me like नेपालीमा बोल्नु पर्यो भने like नेपालीमा पनि अलिक राम्ररी नै बोल्न सक्छु नि त म, होइन? So अनि इङ्ग्लिसमा पनि okay exactly यहीँ नेटिभ बोर्न अमेरिकन जस्तै नबोले पनि I can still fluently नेपाली English पनि बोल्न सक्छु. So it's के भन्छ best of the 2 worlds or 2 languages नि त. So anyway, I think that's just a message for like our younger uहरू, like don't be, don't let those bullies get to you भनेर.
Stand on it, Manjuli, period.
I think like for me, like as a Buddhist refugee, like who moved to the like United States, like I think I have experienced both. तर म चाहिँ अझै like acculturationसँग like close छु जस्तो लाग्छ, किनभने because like I have adjusted like American life पनि like इङ्ग्लिस सिक्नुदेखि भयो, इङ्ग्लिस जानु र like यहाँको नयाँ like रीतिरिवाज अपनाउनु, but like I have like kept my own culture. म किनभने अझैसम्म पनि हाम्रो like जतिवटा like culture इभेन्टहरू हुन्छ where I participate like through the dance भयो, singing भयो, अनि किनभने कति कति कुराहरूलाई कति अब थाहा हुँदैन नि त. फर इक्जाम्पल अब लोसारहरू भयो, देयर आर लाइक डिफ्रेन्ट टाइप्स अफ लोसार विच इट रिप्रेजेन्ट्स लाइक डिफ्रेन्ट लाइक अब गुरुङ लोसारको फाल्टे भयो, सोनाम लोसार भयो, इभन लाइक यता राईहरू अरूहरूको लाइक डिफ्रेन्ट कल्चरहरूबाट हुन्छ नि. सो since I have like I've been like participate on that, so I feel like I'm more close to acculturation. But like sometimes see I think I have felt like pressure to like fit in, like in school and like social situation ma. And I think I had to like change something about myself to be like accepted. And like it was like very hard at times because I didn't want to lose my like culture अघि मैले भने जस्तै. But like, and I think many people from our community I have like felt the same way. Like if we try to find a balance between like keeping our culture like while living in a new country, I think that's more like beneficial and helpful too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like what Sobin said stands so true because I mean, for me, like a big thing was like it's so bittersweet, like Abu, let's like you pick up this new culture, but either you have to like, how can you still keep your old culture and keep it going? Was it really like hard, like Sabine said, to find the balance? And finding the balance is hard for so many people. That's why like a lot of people go through like so many stress and a lot of physical, psychological changes. And it's like it's really crazy that how it still continues to affect so many people. Like when I pronounce certain words, and that's what made me feel distant from at least my own community because like yeah, I can pronounce these like English words perfectly, but then with my with my own language, I can't pronounce the words perfectly as I wish I did. Like I say certain words and then some Nepali people would laugh and it's like, you know, I felt like from that side it hurt more than when like people from America would say things about like the way I pronounce certain things because it was coming from my own people.
Yeah, I think assimilation भन्ने कुराले like I think it was something that personally I assimilated myself a lot right now from our community, and I think it made a big issue to kind of assimilate myself from our community and kind of like dive getting more Western culture le अलिक मलाई pull in गर्न भन्ने reason चाहिँ मेरो सेक्सुअलिटीको कुराहरूमा थियो होइन and like growing coming from हाम्रो community like I never really saw anyone who was queer and not like gay, lesbian, trans, but like I never even knew anybody that that existed in our community, you know, other than a movie theater that like really trans character like हुन्छ कस्तो अब हिजडा भनेर or like छक्का भनेर it's like almost like a joke भनेर मात्र देखाइरहेको हुन्छ नि त a lot of queer folks queer identities arco characters are like so for me I think I always kind of queer too and I always had like the queerness I there was always queerness in me since I was a baby camp I know and like I just didn't know what it was and I think and coming to the United States and in high school I joined theater we all if went to high school in the US like you guys know what's theater kids are like how open they are and like how like they're very accepting हुन्छ भनौँ न उनीहरूको sexual identity हरुको कुराहरुमा so त्यो कुराले मलाई अलिकति like expose गर्यो like oh my god queer people exist भन्ने कुराहरुलाई expose गर्दै then like started to question myself in like junior year तिर and like त्यहाँदेखि freshman year देखि I started to realize oh my god like damn I'm queer भन्ने हुन्छ नि like I'm gay भन्ने एउटा उयो हुन थाल्यो क्या then like that was and that became a reason for me to start like assimilate myself. I know I'm in a good place in life in terms of my sexuality and my identity with very supportive family, but
Yeah, what made you wanna come back and acculturate? Because I feel like after the point I met you in, which was last year, I felt like to me it seems like you're acculturated more than assimilated.
I feel like more आफ्नो sense of identity मेरो refugee identity सँग चाहिँ I was very I think म सानैदेखि very strongly I feel like हुन्छ नि एउटा strong sense of belonging थियो क्या एउटा I think growing up अब क्याम्पमा हामी kind of like I was part of some हाम्रो youth अब youth ग्रुपहरुसँग नै त्यही डान्सहरु गरिन्थ्यो and like we kind of had mission to go back to Bhutan भन्ने त्यस्तै विषयमा like हामीले थिएटरहरु गर्थ्यौं अनि like social issuesहरुको बारेमा डान्सहरु गर्थ्यौं स्टोरीजहरु प्ले एक्टहरु गर्थ्यौं so since I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old and then that was something that I very kind of grew up in this energy ma and then negative and pessimistic view थियो मेरो community सँग that's why I ran away and I think as I got more involved in this organizing work and like learning more about advocacy work or community building and like I think realizing that wow I need to learn more about my own community and मेरो community को बारेमा आफूले I'm always been into like learning about myself and our stories so त्यसको लागि I had to come back if I want to learn about myself if I want to know myself Black Lives Matter हुन थाल्यो and really त्यो summer situation like really made me search for my community and I feel like okay what is our हाम्रो community को goal and what is our belonging in the West sorry that was a lot
No, I think that's so cool.
I'm glad you decided to come back and work with organizations because now, you know, you met me
Yes, no, I'm with you guys. No, you guys, I'm really that is so true.
Was it the same for you, Sarda? How is it for you?
Somewhat similar to what you guys went through, like assimilation and acculturation in my personal experience was growing up, especially in middle school. I was very focused on fitting in. The school that I attended was like the majority of like the students that went there were not of a similar background. And so because of that, I was trying to fit in with them and not with people like me. And so that's what caused me to go through assimilation. And then even though I did partake in Dasetia and like, Losar events, I just never fully embraced it. But then I slowly got back to it as I reached high school because I think that's when I saw like a lot of other people, a lot of other Nepali people embracing our culture. And I always loved dancing. Dancing was like a huge part of me growing up.
You're
Guys, my heart is
No,
racing.
you're doing great. What about dancing? Did dancing help you come back? What happened?
It did. When I was in high school, I started dancing a lot in events, and it kind of like brought me closer to other Bhutanese Nepali in our community. And it also helped me learn a lot of things that I didn't know. And at that point, I used to speak Nepali a lot better compared to now. But yeah, with accents, I never felt my accent was an issue. But I guess because no one ever commented to me towards it.
Like after hearing what Sarda said, I feel like it made me realize how important representation is because when we were young, going through middle school, elementary, there weren't a lot of events. Like the momentum as right now wasn't the same when we were growing up. When we had Loser, we had like Ekepola. Then afterwards, it was kind of dead. We didn't have a lot of cultural events. Nepali people in schools when we were in middle or high school, it was white majority. So I think because of those, it made us want to fit in more aggressively. So my question is for like Sabine and Sirzana or Manjuditi, had you guys come here earlier maybe and schoolमा पनि त्यस्तो साह्रो नेपाली साथीहरू थिएन, events, cultural events, like you say, लोसारहरू पनि थिएन भने, do you think you guys may have, gone through a similar process as us?
I can answer that. So even though more ढिलो आए पनि when I came in 2014 and धेरैजना नेपाली मान्छेहरू आइसकेको थियो, as for my family, all of them आइसकेको थियो. So when I got to Virginia, there wasn't anybody that I can like say who were similar to me because जम्मैजनाले English जानिसकेको थियो, बोलिसकेको थियो, and it seemed to me that they were all blended. For me, I felt like I was the odd one out, even though more ढिलो पनि because there wasn't any Nepali that were similar to my age. There were Nepali who were older than me, but they had to like they had different school and Jamejana like they were like in the same similar age gap, so they went to different school and I was kind of alone. And sometimes Susmita huntyo and I talked with them in Nepali, but other than that, I wouldn't have anyone to talk with. And even though I could have, in that process, I could have been through similar process as them because I didn't had any Nepali friends. I could have been in same place as Susmita, Sada, or Nitisa jastoi because I didn't had any Nepal friend. But I just couldn't. I just couldn't get in like blend like in उनीहरूकै सिचुएसन जसरी नै ब्लेन्ड गर्नै सकिनँ म. If I came early, म early आउनु भए maybe म अलिक better हुन्थेँ लाइक मेरो बोलाइमा मेरो के अरे ब्लेन्ड हुनेमा हो त्यस्तो सिमुलेसनतिर भए maybe जानु सक्थेँ. But I was already 10 मा त जम्मै कुरा दिमागमा आइसकेको हुन्छ, बुझिसकेको हुन्छ. You're wise enough to know मेरो क्याम्प कहाँ छ भनेर आइडेन्टिफाई पनि गर्न सकेको हुन्छ नि त. So त्यही भएर चाहिँ for me it was hard because म यता पनि ब्लेन्ड हुन सक्दिनँ, यता पनि ब्लेन्ड हुन सक्दिनँ. So दुईटै म्याक्सअप हुँदाखेरि मेरो बोलाइ नेपालीमा नि राम्रो छैन र इङ्ग्लिसमा पनि राम्रो छैन. So I'm like in the middle. So it's really hard for me because I can't even blend with them. अनि नेपाली खोज्दाखेरि नेपाली पनि छैन. So I was in a stuck position. So therefore, जब म हेरिसबर्गमा आएको थिएँ त्यतिखेर चाहिँ I felt like there was a lot of Nepali people. I found a lot of Nepali people who were just like me. And I was like, wow, यस्तो मान्छे पनि हुँदो रहेछ. Like, what? My जिन्दगीमा मैले देखेको थिइनँ. And for the first time, I found out there was Nepali and Nepali भनेर, Bhutanese Nepali भनेर for the first time मैले त्यहीँबाट थाहा पाएँ. And but we are all counted as Nepali, but still, let me change my wheel. मैले बिर्सेँ यसै नै. So अघिको कुरा, to bring that out, I was trying to talk, but the words keep on flying away from me. So to answer Susmitaको question, मेरो नेपाली पेरेन्ट भन्नु खोज्दाखेरि चाहिँ what I meant was जम्मैजनाको घरमा त नेपाली पेरेन्टहरू त हुन्छै हुन्छ, but mostly some मान्छेहरूको घरमा चाहिँ नेपाली पेरेन्टहरू पढिरहेको हुँदैन नि त. त्यही कारणले गर्दाखेरि उनीहरूले राम्ररी सिकाउन सक्दैन कि त नानीहरूले नै राम्ररी सिकेको छैन त पेरेन्टहरूलाई कसरी सिकाउने होइन. सो त्यही कारणले गर्दा चाहिँ मैले अघि नेपाली पेरेन्ट भनेर भन्नु खोजेको थिएँ.
त्यो कुरामा सृजना लाइक आई डु अग्री लाइक समटाइम्स हुन्छ नि हामी अलिक छिटो आएको भए लाइक अलिक धेरै नै कुरा सिकिन्थ्यो कि भन्ने पनि हुन्छ. लाइक थिङ्क वान अफ द थिङ द्याट मलाई केमा सधैँ हुन्थ्यो भने लाइक आई थिङ्क थिएटरहरू गर्दाखेरि क्या यहाँ अब अमेरिकामा त लाइक थिएटरहरू डान्सहरू गर्न भनेको उनीहरू जन्मिन बित्तिकै भुँडीदेखि नै सिकाउनु थालेको हुन्छ क्या उनीहरूलाई ब्यालेहरूमा के ज्याजमा त्यो केहरू सानैदेखि लगाइदिएको हुन्छ. एन्ड देन लाइक स्पेसली लाइक त्यहाँदेखि कम्पिटिसनहरूतिर जाँदाखेरि हाई स्कुलमा हुँदाखेरि अर्को हाई स्कुलहरू ओ माई गड यस्तो वाइल्ड वाइल्डहरू डान्स गर्थ्यो नि लाइक हुन्छ नि. अनि सधैँ त्यो उयो हुन्थ्यो क्या वा लाइक यिनीहरू म अलिक छिटो अमेरिका आउनु भयो यो अपर्च्युनिटीहरू अलिक धेरै लान सकिन्थ्यो कि राइट. एन्ड लाइक मेरो इङ्ग्लिस पनि अलिक धेरै एक्सेन्टलाई पनि अलिक कम हुन्थ्यो कि भनेर हुन्छ नि. त्यो डेफिनेटली अलिक त्यो आई थिङ्क त्यो चाहिँ हुन्थ्यो मलाई पनि. लाइक आई फिल लाइक द्याट समथिङ द्याट lot of us had experience as हामी मात्र नेपाली होइन but like lot of immigrantsहरू हुन्छ नि who comes here like around हाम्रो 10-12 एजहरूमा.
Sometimes I do like like ask myself किनभने लाइक पहिला हुनुभयो त बा यस्तो अझै बेटर गर्न सकिन्थ्यो कि मेरो लाइक इम्प्रुभमेन्टहरू अहिले पनि यस लाइक पछाडि फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि त वेल सो मेनी ग्रोथहरू लाइक इम्प्रुभमेन्टहरू त छ बट लाइक इफ अलिक अर्ली आउनु भएको चाहिँ अझै इम्प्रुभमेन्टहरू हुन्थ्यो कि अझै के गर्नु सक्थ्यो कि भन्ने जस्तो लाग्छ. बट या जस्ट टु एड अन टु सृजनाले भने जस्तै मेरो चाहिँ कस्तो भयो भने इभन दो लाइक म पहिल्यै आएको भए पनि लाइक आई थिङ्क आफूमा भर पर्छ त्यो चाहिँ होइन. लाइक डिपेन्ड्स अन म चाहिँ अब पहिल्यैदेखि नै त्यो नेपालीमा धेरै लाइक सराउन्डेड भएर होला. इभन दो म अब अमेरिका आएर पनि आई नो लाइक अमेरिकन कल्चरमा त उयो त हुन्छ बट एट द सेम टाइम इट्स अल अप टु यु आफूमा नि भर पर्छ होइन. किनभने आफूले आफ्नो आइडेन्टिटी आफ्नो कल्चर कसरी अगाडि बढाउन सकिन्छ र आफूले के गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मेक श्योर यु डोन्ट लाइक फर्गेट द्याट भनेर पनि. अनि मेरो चाहिँ के हुन्थ्यो भने म पनि पहिला आउँदाखेरि एट द बिगिनिङ आई थिङ्क इएलएल क्लासमा राखेको थियो. त्यहाँनिर सबैजना लाइक प्रिटी मच लाइक म त नयाँ थिएँ बट अल अफ देम वर लाइक दे क्यान फ्लुएन्टली स्पिक इङ्ग्लिस के. अनि म त क्लासमा जान्थेँ ट्वा परेर यसरी बस्थेँ के भन्यो अब इभन दो लाइक आई नो आई डु टक अ लट बट एट द सेम टाइम म कति साई छु भन्ने प्रायःलाई थाहा पनि छैन हुन्छ नि. म आई डोन्ट टक मच पनि. अनि म त चुप लाएर हेर्थेँ इभन दो लाइक म के भन्छु जस्तो पनि भन्नु खोज्थेँ होइन. बट आई फिल लाइक कि बा मैले भनेको हुँदैन कि बा मैले भनेको बिग्रिन्छ कि बा दे माइट मेक फन अफ मी भन्ने पनि लाग्थ्यो कि. अनि अघि नवलले भने जस्तै रिप्रेजेन्टेसन आई थिङ्क जुन चाहिँ मसँग छ त्यो चाहिँ डान्स हुन्छ नि. जुन चाहिँ म अब मेक स्योर वर्ड लाइक जहाँ म पुगे पनि त्यो चाहिँ म भुल्नै सक्दिनँ. जुन चाहिँ म नगरी गर्नै लाइक छोड्नै सक्दिनँ त्यो चाहिँ डान्स भयो लाइक म्युजिक भयो के. सो म्युजिकलाई चाहिँ मैले कन्टिन्यू गरेर लाइक मैले लाइक पार्टिसिपेटहरू गर्न थालेँ अब किनभने हाम्रो क्लासमा लाइक हाम्रो स्कुलमा बी द चेन्ज क्लब भन्ने थियो. इट हेल्प मी अ लट टु स्टे लाइक कनेक्टेड विथ नेपालीमा पनि. बट पहिला एट द बिगिनिङ त्यति नेपाली थिएन क्या त्यहाँ पनि. वेल थियो बट लाइक धेरै मुभहरू सकेको थियो. अनि प्रायः जस्तोहरू मभन्दा फ्लुएन्टली इङ्ग्लिस बोल्नेहरू थियो. सो त्यही भएर अलिकति चाहिँ डिस्कनेक्टेड फिल भएको जस्तो हुन्थ्यो एट द बिगिनिङ. बट आफूसँग केही भए पछाडि उनीहरूले नि पछाउनै आउँदो रहेछ भन्ने थाहा भयो क्या. सकर खेले पछाडि आई मेड लाइक यता American friendsहरू पनि. Well, it helped me a lot to improve my English. I hope I answer your questions.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Oh, I'm sorry, Noah. I just think it's really cool, like what I guess developmental stage and age that you come to America makes such a big difference on your experience overall. Because obviously there's pros and cons to coming obviously early and then coming a bit later in your life. And I think also something that was trying to say was that okay, so like we came earlier, but we also had like our pros and cons. But then you guys coming later also had its pros and cons. And it's just like to put you guys in our shoes and put us in your shoes. I mean, for me, I feel like if I came a bit later when I had like when I wasn't in second grade, when I was a bit older and I had more Nepali speaking experience, then I think I would be more comfortable, especially with like such a strong Buddhist Nepali community around me. I feel like I'll be comfortable speaking Nepali and I would be part of all these different, I don't know, Nepali orgs and stuff like that.
Were there any other factors that तिमीहरूको रोलमा, or like even if you're not, maybe not तिम्रोमै नभए पनि तिम्रो friendsहरूमा, or like any other factor in other immigrants
From elementary up till middle school, I ate cafeteria food, right? But then during middle school, I had to pay for lunch. So I was like, I'd rather make my own lunch and take it from home. And that's when when you bring food that no one has heard of, no one has seen. Thankfully, though, my friend group was like always so accepting and welcoming of my culture. So anytime I brought Nepali dishes out, they'd be like, "Oh, what's that?" And they'd want to try it. And there was no rude things said about the food I eat or anything like that. They were seriously so nice, and I'm really thankful for that. But I think I just was insecure myself because sometimes, remember one time I brought tokre in, and then the way I introduced it, I was like, oh my God, I'm just here bringing so many exotic foods. Like I said exotic on myself, like they didn't even have to say it, but I felt like so, I don't know, pressured or something. So I was like, yeah, these are so weird stuff that I'm bringing in. But I felt like I had to say it. I also always questioned, what do American people eat for like lunch, dinner? Like, what can I bring to school that's American so that, it's easier? Because I genuinely still don't know to this day. Because हाम्रो त जहिले पनि भात हुन्छ नि त. What do they do?
Oh my
Um,
God. I thought
but
they
yeah.
ate salad every single day. But then when I found out that some Americans eat rice too, I was so shook. It was a culture shock. I swear, they just had broccoli, khali broccoli, मतलब खाँदै बस्छन्. Because American TV show. I'm sorry. That was just like, a big
Yeah,
shock.
I guess our perspectives is a bit narrow too. So sorry for that. But I always thought it was like just sandwich, like ham and cheese, maybe two breads. That was it.
Yeah, I think मलाई पनि लाइक बेला बेला लाइक अब खानेकुरा लानु पर्थ्यो नि त स्कुलमा. अनि मेजोरिटी अफ लाइक मान्छेहरू अमेरिकन्स हुन्थ्यो. अनि के लगौँ भन्नेमा स्टक हुन्थ्यो क्या. म कज लाइक अघि अघि तिमीले भने जस्तै अब हाम्रो त वेल अब डेली मिलै राइसहरू हो. लाइक भात दाल भात चामल अब त्यो त खानु भएन.
I feel like on any food kurama, I just remember like when I started eating pasta. I think on school ma suru ta bhayo, but like I remember high school ma I think sophomore, was it sophomore or junior year I did cross country, and then we used to have team dinner ni ta. अनि यो फुडको विषयमा चाहिँ लाइक किनकि अगेन जम्मै आई थिङ्क मै मात्रै थिएँ होला नेपाली अनि मेरो साथी हुनुहुन्थ्यो हामी सी स्टिल बेस्ट फ्रेन्ड अन्टिल नाउ के अरे कङ्गोबाट होइन एनिवे लाइक हो यस्तोमा चाहिँ ओमा गड के लानुहुन्थ्यो होइन अनि आई थिङ्क आई अलवेज वेन्ट फर लाइक खासै आई डोन्ट रिमेम्बर लाइक अनेस्टली नेपाली खानेकुराहरू लगाएको उयसमा एन्ड देन के अरे आई रिमेम्बर like learning to make pasta, the like red sauce, ra त्यो उयो मात्रै. And then I remember taking that and then them enjoying it. And I think ever since I'm like, yeah, that's one food I can cook.
Kere, I always thought that American Nepali food and stuff or like यहाँको मान्छेहरूलाई American मान्छेहरूलाई they always enjoy it and like हुन्छ नि कसरी बनाएको कहाँबाट बनाएको. I thought they were always curious about those kind of stuff and I was so excited to tell them like oh हाम्रो घरमा यो हुन्छ त्यो हुन्छ and we bring this and they were like oh my God, it tastes so good, it smells so good. I only heard that.
या आई थिङ्क मैले पनि किनभने म अब खानेकुराको स्टोरीतिर धेरै हालेको हुन्थेँ नि त. अनि अब मेरो साथीहरू प्रायः जस्तो लाइक अमेरिकन्सहरू भयो लाइक अब अरू अरू ठाउँबाट आएको थियो अनि के अरे एक दिन चाहिँ अनि लाइक दे वान्टेड टु ट्राई के अनि मैले लगिदिएको थिएँ चाउमिन बनाएर अनि दे रियली लाइक इट पुरै सक्यो पनि उनीहरू दे रियली लाइक इट के अनि आफ्टर द्याट उनीहरूले फेरि ल्याइ मागेको थियो क्या मलाई बट मैले तर त्यो क्रिटिसाइज चाहिँ मैले पनि सुनेको छैन
Me too. I feel like as far as I can recall, it's all just been positive things. But something else other than food, I think I want to talk more about what Susan said about parents who, so being first gen students basically, because for me, my parents didn't go to college. So like obviously being like the first people to go to college, it was a lot to navigate by ourselves. And I feel like for me, that felt more pressuring to assimilate because if I could learn the language faster, if I could be one with the culture, then I could help out with my family more. And for me, that felt very pressuring when I was little. Because I had to be able to read the documents, translate them at the hospital, translate those things. And it was like, I guess in a sense, it helped me grow up faster and that made it easier to assimilate because in one way I was helping my family.
तिमीहरूको लागि like I feel like for some of you guys who did any kind of assimilated, well, and then what kind of made you to come back or like what's it made you like to realize and or for the folks like Srijana Sabin like who felt very strong to your Nepali identity and that didn't like you didn't really have to go through assimilation process at mind. I think what was your reason for you to like I think reason like I think what made you त्यसरी उयो गर्यो होला I think we kind of discussed that was maybe
The train came to you and it left me, Nawal. Oh my goodness.
I should have mentioned this earlier, but like now that you're asking, I'm glad you're asking. And by the way, no, it like came back to me. So, after, I finally got over like in school, I finally got over like trying to fit in and getting over my insecurities. I was finally able to, realize the things that I love the most about our culture, like linga vayo, dance vayo, the traditions we do all of a sudden like I was like wow like many of the people that I come across they often are amazed when I say like yeah I speak two languages. I feel truly special that I'm Bhutanese Nepali and we have such a unique history and root.
Period. For me, I feel like it was more like what Noah said. Like one of the main reasons why they disconnected from Nepali culture was because they gossip so much and it was like so much negativity coming from one side. And at least for me personally. But I realized that as I grew up that what other people said didn't matter and that I should just focus on myself and the people that I love around me. And I guess that mentality in some sense made me want to get back with my culture and find myself more. And I think like Noah said, like going into more activism work and joining different orgs really helped me, I guess, become more stronger minded so like their words wouldn't affect me as much.
So for me, since म हेरिजबर्गमा आएदेखि स्कुल त जान्थेँ but what made me more drawn to our culture is I would say dance as well because I started dance class around September जस्तोमा and then after like close to New Year we started having dance practice for Loser and like different culture danceहरू भयो लुगाहरू भयो I got to explore all that and I was like oh my god like यस्तो राम्रो लाइक हुन्छ नि लुगाहरू लाइक कल्चरहरू थियो भनेर लाइक मलाई थाहै थिएन क्या and then to perform गर्नु त्यो डान्सहरू is just like I'm like so into it so passionate like I never tried that in my life before even though म घरमा here there dance गरे पनि like in stage in front of so many people wearing your cultural luga and dancing made me so proud of myself आफै नै and then yeah that made me get involved in American culture more and more.
Oh my God, we have so many great dancers in this group. This is crazy.
Yeah, I think any through our like kala, like our like talent we have like or joyसँग भए पनि like it shows कि like how we are like representing our like culture.
kala and sahitya
या कला साहित्यले हाम्रो पहिचानलाई कसरी अगाडि बढाइरहेको छौँ भनेर ल सद
हातमा कलम हुनेहरू भनेर कलम लिएर उठाउँछु नि
Wow. I think मेरो फ्रेन्ड्स ग्रुपहरू लाइक या स्कुलमा पनि के भन्छ एक दुईजना स्पेसली न्यू अमेरिकन फ्रेन्ड्सहरू बनाएर थिएँ लाइक वर इन द सेम इन टर्म्स अफ लाइक इङ्ग्लिस आई थिङ्क इङ्ग्लिस लाइक क्या उनीहरू फ्लुएन्टली थियो आई थिङ्क सेम लेभलमै थिए द फ्रेन्ड्स द्याट आई मेड अघि सबैले भने जस्तै हाई स्कुलमा बिङ पार्ट अफ बी द चेन्ज इट रियली हेल्प अस सेलिब्रेट इच अदरको कल्चर्सहरू होइन अनि आई थिङ्क फुड कल्चर हो यस्तो भयो and then he also still having friends यता back home like घरमै पनि who like सेम मेरो एजको भनौँ न लाइक इङ्ग्लिस पनि सेम त्यही लेभलकै बोल्ने साथीहरू भएर पनि होला लाइक वर स्टिल कनेक्टेड टु हाम्रै नेपालीनेस भनौँ न लाइक भुटनेस नेपालीनेसहरू अनि सो आई थिङ्क अनि द टाइम द्याट वी अराइभड न्यू ह्याम्सटरमा अनि त्यो प्रोग्राम्सहरू भइरहेकोले गर्दा पनि त्यो एक्सपोजर जति एक्सपोजर पाएँ नि मैले I think that really helped me stay connected to like मेरो Bhutanese Nepali like our background cultures उयसमा अनि like traditions भनौँ न different stateमा भए पनि I'm still learning to make more connections within the community किनकि यहाँनिर त झन् यहाँ नेपाली Bhutanese नेपालीहरू धेरै हुनुहुन्छ but they're like from different stateहरू भयो यताउता नि त so it's a bigger community here so
So for me, I think at a certain point in high school, like consciousness just hit. I was like, oh, I'm Nepali, I should love my culture. Um, but this was like before moving to Harrisburg in Virginia, so like freshman or sophomore year. I think what really drove it was that Harrisburg really is the hub because, like Monja Didi was saying about exposure and representation, seeing so many organizations, Budnis Nepali or Go, like form Bako, especially people around my age or who take part in these organizations, it really made me want to do the same and be part of that community after moving to Harrisburg. And then honestly, I guess I'm part of somewhat of like that. I think I manifested you guys because like this right now is something that I would look up to when I was in freshman year. Like, oh, I want to be part of that. There are people my age who are talking about important community issues. And I think that's really what drove me, as well as our like Sarda was saying, lingas and I mean, lingas and Nepali, this is how do I know? um, just like seeing all these things that makes me Nepali, I was like, wow, I think I need to appreciate this.
Yeah, I feel like everyone like kind of goes through this phase, especially like folks who any have immigrant children who kind of like get lost with the Western and any the facade like we get so excited and like I feel like we kind of get lost with it and then like at certain age हामी सबैलाई त्यो कन्सियसनेसले हुन्छ नि त्यो who am I हुन्छ नि हो त्यो existential crisis identity crisisले hit गर्छ क्या and I feel like that is like yeah that's such an experience of so many immigrants youth in America and like I'm so glad that we can all share that experience together. It's not always the greatest experience I know for some of us we have to go through a lot of struggles पनि छ हैन त्यो journey-मा अनि but also there's another beautiful part of it. There's also beauty in that.
Yeah, I think it's crazy to also think that although like obviously some people started off with assimilating, but then eventually they made their way back by acculturating. So do you guys think that it's better if we assimilate from the start or acculturate?
I mean, Noel did say he, went into it, but it's not usually of choice. You're kind of forced because of societal pressure. It's a foreign country. You need to do certain things to fit in. So it's very forceful. I don't think it's ever a good idea to go into it with assimilation. I think acculturation is a great way to integrate because you learn about the new culture. And I think that's really important in life. Anywhere you need to learn. And again, finding that balance, it may be hard, but your identity is your identity. So learn to accept that and celebrate that.
I love your points, Smita Bono. I think that's great. So I feel like तिमीले त्यो अघि त्यो point mention गर्यो like hopefully as long as there's not like त्यो एकदमै like negative pressureहरू नानीहरूमाथि आएन भने चाहिँ I feel like they might find ways to accept आफ्नो culture पनि because again outside of home त it's a different culture भयो नि त हैन So I feel like this might पनि त्यो if there's a lot of negative force from within the parents, because I've kind of like seen it अलिअलि happen यस्तो कुराहरू भएको even like घरकै conversationमा पनि like आफ्नै घरमा त्यही पनि where they're like अब नानीहरूले अलिकति नेपाली राम्रो घरमा बोलेन भने चाहिँ and I feel guilty of that too because I do have younger siblings होइन they have like more American accent compared to mine because उनीहरू सानैमा आयो अनि I feel like हामी तिनजनाले चाहिँ between us we found English a little bit easier to speak नि त अनि किनकि म पनि कलेज by the time when they were growing up, like उनीहरूको middle school, high school, भनौँ, like I was also trying to learn more English नि त होइन being the oldest one. अघि नै नितिशा बोल्ने एउटा point राखेको थियो where she was translating for familiesहरू. अनि so that kind of happened to me पनि अनि so I feel like when that happened, like मेरो जति पनि मेरो younger भाइ बहिनीहरू थियो, like we started speaking more English घरमै पनि and now I feel like they have like नेपाली बोल्दाखेरि अलिकति accent आउँछ कि उनीहरूको and then some I feel guilty of making fun of the way they say the words and I hold myself accountable so anyway तर पनि encourage गर्नु is really nice के अरे I think okay घरमै like अब नेपाली हाम्रो कल्चरहरू यस्तो हो like यसरी प्र्याक्टिस गर्नुपर्छ अनि I like that you're also learning like different culturesहरूको बारेमा पनि भनेर I think appreciate गर्नु is a good thing.
Often if we try to stay away from shaming youth and would be really helpful.
I just want to add that not just youths, it's like everyone too, especially I feel like older people went through the same real pressure and stuff, same as youths. And I think it's really important to acknowledge them also because they were also trying to go through the same process of assimilating and acculturating as us. But I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say like one was harder than the other. Obviously, we all have our own experiences. But I think that because we were so focused on our own things by assimilating and acculturating, it's like we never focused that our families were doing the same thing. And for them, obviously, for them, it was hard too. And I just want to acknowledge that, obviously it's really hard. In a utopian society, it would be really nice if we all acculturated rather than assimilated. But what we can control is us. We can control ourselves, our feedbacks, our reactions, and basically what we say. I think it's really important to think before you say something.
Yeah, I think yeah, just to add like किनभने सानो सानो कुराले कति चोट पुऱ्याइरहेको हुन्छ थाहा हुँदैन नि त लाइक सानो नानीहरू चाहिँ प्रायः जस्तो लाइक यी जो हुर्केको छ उनीहरूले लाइक दे क्यान इजिली स्पिक इङ्ग्लिस लाइक म एट द सेम टाइम पेरेन्ट्सहरूले चाहिँ के गर्नु अलिक जरुरी जस्तो लाग्छ भने चाहिँ लाइक उनीहरूलाई आफ्नो लाइक भाषाहरू नि ताकि गएर उनीहरूलाई पछि गएर गाह्रो नपरोस् किनभने अघि नितिशा अब नितिशाले मात्रै होइन लाइक मैले मन्जुर जो अरूले पनि किनभने there's gonna be a point where you have to like translate के किनभने अब त्यतिखेर I know you can speak English but you have to translate that to नेपाली अनि बेला बेला अब आफूले नेपाली आफ्नो नेपाली लाइक पर्फेक्ट त हुनु पर्दैन बट अब make sure your parents understand आफूले के भनिरहेछ like translate गर्दाखेरि.
I like the point both Nitisa and Sabin made, but I would also like to address that American parent same situation for our parents that उनीहरूले पनि इङ्ग्लिसहरू राम्रो बोल्न जानेको हुँदैन र हामीले पनि उनीहरूको इङ्ग्लिसलाई सेम गर्नु त्यो इज नट गुड. So I hope that we can teach our parents कसरी राम्ररी भन्नु र सेम नगरिकन अलिकति राम्रो वेमा भन्नु is necessary.
I read this in one of my Asian sexuality class from this book called Minor Feelings. And the quote is, one characteristic of racism is that children are treated like adults and adults are treated like children. Watching a parent being debased like a child is the deepest shame. I cannot count the number of times I have seen my parents condensed to or mocked by white adults. This was so customary that when my mother had any encounter with the white adults, I was always hypervigilant, ready to mediate or pull her away. To grow up Asian in America is to witness humiliation of authority figures like your parents and to learn not to depend on them. They cannot protect you. I felt like the juxtaposition is so important still today because obviously we assimilate or we acculturate and we like take in this new culture, but because like you guys were talking about, we have this privilege of knowing English and learning and having the ability to easily, I guess, learn these things and retain them and go into this new culture, but our parents don't have the same privilege. So they're often treated as children and they're degraded. And I agree with this quote because I felt like growing up for me, there was a lot of moments where I felt deeply ashamed that my parents couldn't speak English because it's like everyone's parents all went to school, all went to college. They had some level of education, and they could speak English proficiently. And then whenever they came to the teacher student conference meetings, it was like, oh, they knew what to say, they knew what to converse about. But it's like our parents had never been through that.
The quote that you like said, honestly, it touched me so deeply because I just think it's heartbreaking when you're with your parents, you're at an appointment, and you do have to translate for them, but it's like the adult there can see how your parents don't know English, and you know you kind of have to do the work for them. So automatically they're going to view our parents as low. Like there's going to be that difference in, I don't know how to explain it, but perception. And to know that these people, these strangers, are looking down on my dad because they can't speak in that manner. It's like really, really sad to observe, you know? So I think what you brought up, I completely relate to. And I wish it wasn't like that. I wish society, especially I guess the host country, was more accepting, understanding of us. But experience like that, they're inevitable and it's really, really sad.
Yeah, I guess I really just overall wish that I guess some kids would also realize that they're not the only ones going through this process. Like their families are going through it also. I feel like a lot of kids I've conversed with, they have like a really resentment towards their family because it's like, why didn't you go to school? It's because of you that I don't have like this and this opportunities, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, like, I just like sometimes I hear kids cursing at their parents because like um they're not, I guess, like because they feel so embarrassed, like their friends parents are like speaking so well, da, 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 but then they feel ashamed of their parents and they like resent their parents so much. But I think it's important as youths to also acknowledge that their experiences are also as valid as ours. Like I know we're all going through it, and how can we make this experience also, I guess, easier for them, or make it easier for ourselves?
I also wanted to add on to that. There was this one point where like someone, I forgot who, but like, they were from a well-educated background and I was, comfortable with them and they asked me, so what does your parent do for a living? Or like, where do they work? And I said, my mom works at a school and they're like, oh, is she a teacher? And I was like, no, she's a housekeeper.
Whenever I got asked that question and I was like, should I say it?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little, even though हाम्रो प्यारेन्टहरू लाइक स्कुलमा हाउसकिपिङ गरे पनि or लाइक होटलमा हाउसकिपिङ गरे पनि or कम्पनीमा जहिले every single day गए पनि we always see them as hardworking parentहरू अनि हामीहरू especially in हाम्रो refugee community-मा I think we all look up to our parents as hardworking and we try to follow the same concept.
I look up to my parents so much, and like most of my work ethic, like Manjuli said, I get from my parents because they're so hardworking and they put 100 in everything that they do. It makes me want to do the same. So I'm forever grateful.
Again, उनीहरू पनि त they are working there, like hardest to provide for us while we get, education, this and that नि त अनि
Yeah, I think किनभने हाम्रो प्यारेन्ट्सहरूले लाइक धेरै लाइक भोग्नु परेको छ नि त लाइक जुन कि हामीले भोग्नु नपरोस् भनेर लाइक लाइक फर लाइक मन्जुले भने जस्तो बेटर अपर्च्युनिटी लाइक उनीहरूले अब एजुकेसनहरू भने जस्तो पाउनु पाएन किनभने त्यस्तै लाइफस्टाइल त्यस्तै थियो होइन अब हामीले नि त्यही फेस नजानु परोस् भनेर चाहिँ दे वर्क रियली हार्ड.
To what Sarada is saying, I think as long as we are proud of our parents and appreciate their work and are grateful for them, then whether their occupation relative to, I guess, other people, even if it is different, when you are confident in what you want to say and in your parents, then I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, what Sarah wanted to say was we should try not to resent our parents too much because if they had the same opportunities as us, then they would also want to be educated and have a well-respected career.
No, I think this Saradari Grandma, I think it's so, yeah, I think the grandma and like, I think, yeah, we shouldn't resent it, like we shouldn't, but like a lot of the time, youth are going, so it's like a lot of the time youth life and it's like a lot about the environment, manche, like the society and the way our society is kind of shaped into, and the social norms are the like the resentment भन्ने कुराहरू I feel like youthहरूमा कति build हुन्छ क्या. So I feel like, as I think Nitisa, Susmita are mentioning, like we need to be more aware of what comes out of our mouth हुन्छ नि when we're talking to people about sensitive कुराहरू, and like kind of respecting the space अनि त्यो मान्छेहरूलाई त्यो इन्टेन्ट र इम्प्याक्टको कुराहरू होइन. हामीले sometimes we may say things as a joke and might find it funny, but त्यसको इम्प्याक्ट अरू एकजना मान्छेकोमा त्यो डिफ्रेन्ट हुनसक्छ त्यही जोकले गरेर होइन. एन्ड आई थिङ्क हामीले कसरी त्यो अलिक सेफ स्पेस एन्ड कल्चर क्रिएट गर्न सकिन्छ एज अ सोसाइटी हुन्छ नि. आई थिङ्क इट्स रियली इम्पोर्टेन्ट वेयर पिपल वेयर युथहरू भयो वर लाइक नट जस्ट युथ एडल्टहरू पनि डजन्ट ह्याभ टु फिल लाइक द्याट दे आर वर्थ अलिक उनीहरूको वर्थ इज लेस because they are not able to speak English properly, right? Or like they're not able to attain a job at a certain position. Because of medical language barrier, and I think if we're able to kind of deconstruct that hierarchy and like the way that we view the world, and that we view occupations, jobs, what is a good job or what is someone to kun hierarchy if we stop like looking at as a society, every sector of job is important. Our parents are like to see them as more human, and like not just parents, but society and त्यो पनि important छ. All right, y'all. It's been such a great conversation, and I think this is one day. Thank you, everyone. हाम्रो second episode सुनिदिनु भएकोमा. We're not an expert in your topics, but these are topics that that really intrigued us, and then we wanted to explore. And your topics are हाम्रो own personal experienceहरूमा कसरी impact गरेको छ भन्ने कुरालाई हामीले एक्सप्लोर गर्न खोजेको थियौँ होइन यो एपिसोडबाट. I hope this kind of gave you an idea of and like reflect on your own experience. Hopefully we'll see you soon again next time. Hello.